Hi everyone, today I'll be bringing you one of my Gabe's deck's worst matchups, which is HB Glacier. HB Glacier is really bad because they tend to contain a lot of ice, so a lot of their turns will be spent on icing up R&D, HQ, archives, and eventually the scoring remote, all of which I won't be able to bust through. One or even two layers of ice is fine, but anything more than that, and I will really struggle to get through because I don't have the economy to support it. Now I start with a very good hand. I have two knights. I have the medium to pressure R&D. I have a fairy in case of any Ichis, and I have sure gamble for some good money. So I have a very good first two turns, setting up my basics, and I even have a Desperado now. So now money is less of a problem. I face check the ice on centrals to make sure I know what I'm getting into and to try to deny to corp some money. Turns out it's an Enigma and the next bronze, all of which are code gates. It's okay, my knight can handle it regardless. So now I allow him to fortify his defenses whichever way he chooses, and I'll attack the weaker server. In this case, it's R&D, so I credit up and force him to reveal his ice on the remote because I know next turn he's going to install in the remote and ice up one more time and get ready to score. So I need to know what I'm in for. Then thereafter I pressure the weaker server, which is R&D, by placing my knight on it. And sure enough, he ices up his remote and he's ready to score. Now I don't have any inside jobs in my hand, so I know that there's no way I'm going to be able to bust through that server. The only thing I can do now is to pressure R&D. I get my medium out and I pull off one run so I can have one medium token. Hopefully that will pressure him into doing stuff, but instead he just scores out of his remote instead. So I continue assaulting R&D very heavily. Now I have 3 tokens on medium, and I've scored 4 points, 2 agendas, which is 4 points so far. This is this was as good as it got for me, because now he installs another piece of ice. Any problems? Nope, because I have another knight in hand. However, I'm very low on credits. Because he was able to shut me out of HQ, I wasn't able to take advantage of Gabe's ability. So I need to spend some time to credit back up. During this time, he was able to sneak another agenda into the remote, while I slowly recovered from my economic loss. I got the knight out of the table, which basically sent a message that I'm going to assault R&D if you don't do anything. Sure enough, he does something. He scores Director Haas' third project. And with that, he was able to install more ice over his other servers, most notably trashing my knight. So now I place my knight on the inner piece of ice, and with my fairy, I predicted that his outer piece of ice was a Grim, which turned out to be correct. So I was able to use the fairy to get past the Grim, and my knight to break the ice if he rests it, which he didn't. And now I get 4 accesses, all of which were ice and 1 hedge fund. In particular, I saw 2 wall statics, which meant that I needed to get a corroder up ASAP. I got a bank job, but the only place I could use it on was the Jackson Howard. Well, I should at least force him to trash the Jackson Howard, so I would do that quite soon. For now, he is able to continue fortifying his defenses, trashing my other knight, so now I have absolutely no way of getting into R&D without suffering heavy losses. So I tried to get my economy up. He denied me by trashing his Jackson Howard. I continued bleeding tempo because I wasn't able to find any icebreakers. Meanwhile, he accelerated forward continuing to score agendas in his very secure remote. I still couldn't find my inside jobs, which was a huge pity. And even if I did, there was no way I was getting past the Enigma. I finally drew a sneak door beta, which allowed me to access his hand to see if there are any agendas in there, but by now it was too late because he had preemptively iced up archives. Very, very smart of him. And because of this, he was able to beta test and further ice up R&D and archives. So now there was absolutely no way in heck that I was going to get into any of those servers. 2 of the servers are protected by Enigmas, and I have no York. I have no Knights. My game is pretty much over. The least I could do was to install Corroder and make a final desperation run on archives in the hopes that he left some agendas there. I ran, so I took to the remote, cashed in on my bank job, and as I said, I continued cashing in with Dirty Laundry and access his Jackson Howard. The very fact that he didn't use Jackson Howard to shuffle cards back to his R&D was probably a telltale sign that there were no agendas in archives. Nothing in archives he needed to recycle. Still, I checked in the archives because there was absolutely nothing else I could do. It was really a last resort. In retrospect, I should have installed Sneak Door Beta and attempted to access his hand, but in any case, the game was done. His servers were way too thick, way too early. I wasn't able to rush out the 7 points before he was able to glacier up his entire set of servers. So yes, I need to practice more against heavy ice opponents, and in particular, protect my knights better, because those 2 knights were the biggest selling point of my opening hand. They were such a great help in busting through the servers very early on. However, once they were trash, all my strength disappeared. So that's my playthrough. Thanks for watching. See you next time.